Hey there everybody, how's it going? It's Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys here today. And I wanted to go over the off-the-field things that have been happening with the Dallas Cowboys over the past couple of days. Some signings, some comments, things that could impact the team long term. I wanted to go over all of that in this particular video. Now before we go any further, if you guys could do me a favor, hit that like button. It's free. It helps out the channel a lot. We're trying to get the algorithm going again. That'd be great. Share this video with a friend or family member if they enjoy Cowboys content so they can see it. And then if you are not subscribed, over 95.8 of you guys watching are not subscribed and you keep coming back and you're enjoying what you're seeing, hey, just subscribe, stick around, and go ahead and hit that notification bell so you get notified when the content that you want to see comes out. And if you want to support the channel further, hit that join button and become a media member today, supporting the channel even further so that I can get better quality when it comes to these things. As you know, hey, I'm still moving, but I wanted to talk about a couple things while I had the time. So the first thing we need to get into is the breaking news of this entire video, and that is CeeDee Lamb is now under contract for the next 4 years after 2024, which is huge. We go and take a look at the numbers. CeeDee Lamb signed a 4-year, $136 million deal, $100 million of which is guaranteed. That is huge. So looking at the numbers here and showing it for you guys, right now he has a $8.75 million cap hit this year, and this deal allowed the Dallas Cowboys to stretch out the money a little bit better than if they tried to sign him at the end of the year, which I was hoping that ended up not being the case, and I'm glad they got it done either way. So you will have a $35 million cap hit next year, $33.6 million cap hit the following, $36.6 million, and then in 2028, where the potential out comes into play, a $16 million cap hit. Now keep in mind, it is not going to be that big of a cap hit. They will restructure his contract several times. But at the end of the day, you got a contract extension done for one of your all-pro players at a skill position where he is one of only a handful of players that can do what he can do. And you can even go even further and say that he is the best at his position or one of the best. And you got that done before other contracts could get done. Cool. Now, it could have been done a whole lot sooner, but you should be aware, if you have been following the Cowboys for a long time, you would be aware of this is how they conduct business, especially for the last decade. They do their deals during training camp or at the very end of the season, nothing in season whatsoever, and sometimes it can get messy. But we know that Jerry Jones loves the Cowboys getting all of the headlines and attention. That is his goal as an owner, GM, etc. And that's going to go right into our next part, which is talking about the comments Jerry Jones made about him staying as the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you've been following the channel for quite some time, you would know I am not fond of Jerry Jones, the general manager, and how the football operations of the Dallas Cowboys have functioned for the last decade plus, but I can extend that for basically my entire lifetime that I've been on this planet for 26 years. And looking at how he has responded to the criticisms of him being the general manager and how football operations have been conducted, who he's facilitated operations to, and all that other stuff, it hasn't resulted in any meaningful success for the Dallas Cowboys in the postseason, which a lot of fans and a lot of critics want to see from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, there was a quote that has been circulated across the entire internet that I wanted to bring up, as it's something new, a new wrinkle to how we've had these discussions about Jerry Jones, the general manager. So we're going to go ahead and look at this quote and further discuss. I've done it all, so I have an inordinate amount of confidence that, fuck, if anybody can figure out how to get this shit done, I can figure out how to get it done. So hell no, there's nobody that could fucking come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. It's funny that Jerry Jones says this because if you look at the Dallas Cowboys from 1996 to the year of our Lord 2024, the Cowboys organization has hired more head coaches than playoff victories. The Dallas Cowboys have hired a total of 6 head coaches since Barry Switzer was the last head coach to win a Super Bowl for this organization, regardless of how you feel about whose team it was and all that other stuff. But the point is that you have had 6 head coaches come into this organization and be the head coach to try and build a winning football program and win a championship, and all that this has resulted in is 4 playoff victories, none of which have been in the divisional round of the postseason. And there have been some things that have happened along the way that has snake bitten this organization, sure. But the fact of the matter is that if you were to take Jerry Jones's resume over the last 30 years and take his name off of it, hand it to some random person that understands sports and say, hey, how would you evaluate this person's tenure as a general manager? I guarantee you that a good chunk of people would be like, why isn't this dude fired yet? Why hasn't he been fired sooner? Something to that effect. And I want to be clear on something. It is hard to win a Super Bowl. And I'm not just saying that as a Cowboys fan. It's understandable that there are franchises that haven't won a championship in a really long time or haven't won it at all. It's really difficult. There's a lot of things that have to go your way, and the Cowboys are in the midst of that. But something that bugs me with Jerry Jones is that he has talked a mighty game about wanting to put the Cowboys over the top, going all in, and we know that he's just playing semantics to build up ratings in the media. That's just his MO. But a good front office would know when to push the chips in and understand, hey, this team's very talented. If we just do a couple moves here and there, don't need to sign like superstars and things of that accord. If we can sign solid starters to plug in holes here, maybe go after one very big name possibly that could push us over the top. Now, that doesn't guarantee you anything. I'm not trying to insinuate that, oh, if the Cowboys, for example, like years ago signed Von Miller, or they went out and signed Bobby Wagner years ago, or Earl Thomas, whoever, that it was going to result in a championship. No, there's no guarantee for that, but it shows that you are putting in an effort that you claim that you are putting in. There's no one that is saying that Jerry Jones is the best general manager in football. In fact, he operates the Cowboys in a manner that is so outdated that it stresses me the hell out. And so that's where I get irritated with the Cowboys. And as a fan, it just makes me want to rip whatever hair I have left out of my head because of how he conducts business as a general manager. And look, this isn't going to change until he leaves this world and then his son takes over and he does things a certain way, probably the same as his father, and the cycle repeats itself. The only saving grace that Jerry has is he has somewhat of a charisma to him to where you can sell the BS. His son, it doesn't have that, and so you're really hoping that there is a revamp to the football operations at some point, but I don't think that's going to happen. And to that, I think the Cowboys are going to have the luck into a championship and pray to God that things go their way. But maybe the football gods don't want that to happen and just want us to be a soap opera for eternity in which we consistently fail to win in the postseason. And keep in mind, I'm a firm believer as well that it doesn't matter what you do until you win it all. The Cowboys can make it to the championship this year. And unless they win it, no one's going to care. The 49ers are a prime example of this. I'm not trying to throw shade at them. I'm just looking at it for how I'm seeing it. And that is that if you win those Super Bowls, people look at you differently. And how you are running your team and how you're putting your team in the position to win. Like, there is a serious discussion to be had where if the 49ers had won the Super Bowls they have been in, we're talking about that whole organization differently. No one cares unless you win it all. And I think that's the only thing that's saving the Cowboys in my head is that, you know, the goalpost is going to change for the Cowboys. It's going to be, if they make it to the NFC title game and lose, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like with Detroit last year, well, it doesn't matter. You lost in the NFC title game in the fashion you did. Oh, well. But if you could be San Francisco, it's like, well, you made it to the Super Bowl. All right, whatever. You lost in overtime. Oh, well. But unless you win it all, like the Rams, the Chiefs over the past couple years, the Patriots, history is more kind on winners than it is losers. Just keep that in mind. So with that, I want to move over to the recent signing of Dalvin Cook and how I feel about that. So the Cowboys bring in Dalvin Cook into the running back room. Right now he is on the practice squad. I would imagine he's going to be elevated, and so the question is like who gets brought down, and I wouldn't be shocked if Deuce Vaughn's the one that gets pushed down, or is it Rico Dowdle? I don't know, but it's a one-year deal, and if they're trying to build this like 1-2 punch with Zeke and Dalvin Cook, I'm a bit indifferent with it because they're older backs. You don't know how they're going to look, and with running backs as they age, they don't perform well. And if you were to ask me what I would want to see, I just need to see solid production. I'm not asking for outer worldly numbers from the running back room. I would greatly appreciate that for sure. But if you've known Mike McCarthy and how he operates his football teams, you would know he typically goes with a running back by committee approach, which is smart in this day and age of how running backs are handled. You know, you can argue whether the quality of the running backs are good, and I think that the room's kind of like, And I think it's going to really come down to, are you going to get like a Darren McFadden type of run with the running back room where you have one of these dudes emerge, becomes a 1,000-yard rusher out of nowhere behind the offensive line, and you just roll with that? Or are you going to be in a situation where it's like, prior to Darren McFadden becoming that lead guy, and I'm referring to 2015, you're kind of just like fumbling around running backs and praying to God someone can give you solid production. And so that's where I'm really at. You know, he talks about how, you know, he is feeling like he still has some gas left in the tank and all the other stuff, which I've heard all before. I'm not shocked in that in the slightest. I'm not trying to be a hater. I want Dalvin Cook to be the best that he can be. But when you look at this running back room and you see Zeke at the age that he's at and what he can do at this point, Dalvin Cook at the age that he's at and what he can do, Rico Dowdle, what we've seen he can do, and Deuce Vaughn hoping that he can step up. You see where I'm getting at? And that's where I look at this room and I'm like, can they do enough? And I think they can do just enough. And I think there's other factors that go into not just the running backs, but also the scheme that you're trying to run. Because last year we saw issues with how the offensive line was opening up holes, and also how your running backs were not making the correct reads, particularly Tony Pollard, where he had chances to break off huge runs, or there were holes in the offensive line that he wasn't taking advantage of, and you're hoping that, okay, with the older backs, they should know how to do that, but can they physically make those adjustments and do that stuff? That's a huge worry. And then, you know, we don't know where Zeke's going to be at, because to be fair, he has been banged up over the past couple years, which is part of why he hasn't been effective. And I mentioned it in the 53-man roster video, which you should go check out, where we talked about every single position when we were going over the running backs. There are things that I'm looking at with Zeke and these other dudes where I would feel fine with certain stats and numbers being hit. But I think when you actually look at what's being done on the field, the main thing is they shouldn't try to force the run when it's not there. Not what I'm asking for. We want to be able to run the football efficiently and effectively. And if you're able to do that, that's a huge win, because now Dak Prescott doesn't have to carry the team offensively, and you're basically like, well, if we can't run the ball, we're screwed. Or if Dak Prescott's having a bad day, or the passing offense just isn't there, you're screwed. And I don't think we're going to have that problem a ton this year, but there will be games where that happens. It's a 17-game season. A lot can happen. It's the NFL. You know, that's just how it is. But to end my point on this whole running back room with Dalvin Cook now, if it's Zeke, Cook, Dowdle, and then you have Lipke there, and then if you're still keeping Deuce on the roster, which I don't think they would in this instance, I think that's okay, but they have to prove it to me. What my mantra has been this year for the Cowboys is you need to prove to me everything that you've been talking about. Everything about what's been being built for the past couple years. Whatever happens in the regular season, fine. I'm not going to be a negative Nancy on that. I'm going to enjoy the season for what it is. But if you can't produce in the playoffs, everything you did before that is just going to be soured because of that. And finally, we get to the big question, to sign Dak or not to sign Dak. That is the question, especially for this front office. Does a Dak Prescott extension get done? Now, to borrow an expression from Jerry Jones, I think the leaves are falling in a pattern where that's going to end up being the case. Whether we like it or not, that looks like what's going to happen. I think the fact that CeeDee Lamb is paid is a huge telling sign for what's going to happen with Dak Prescott. The reason I say that is that I don't think compensation was the only thing that was discussed between CeeDee Lamb's representation and the Cowboys. I do think that part of the negotiations involved who's going to be throwing CeeDee Lamb the ball long term. How is the team going to look long term? Because when we look at when wide receivers move around, some of it has to deal with money, but part of it too is the situation. Like when you look at the Packers, for example, the reason why Davante Adams left to go play with Derek Carr is because they played with each other, but also he didn't know what the Packers were going to look like long term with Jordan Love. He has said it himself. And I think that applied for CeeDee Lamb as well. I don't want to sign at a place where I'm going to have a guy that is throwing me the football that sucks, right? And I think that him and Dak have a connection where they both benefit from one another. And that's why I think this deal is going to be done. Now, the timing, we don't know. We do know that the Joneses either get deals done before the season begins or at some point before free agency opens. That's why I think it's going to get done. And another part of it, too, is the Joneses don't want to be in a position where they don't know who the quarterback is. They can F around and find out for sure, but part of me believes that they know that they have a guy that can play the quarterback position well, regardless of what's happened in the postseason. They might say those things to generate those headlines. And whether you like Dak Prescott or not, the fact is that even if they let him walk, it's going to cripple the Cowboys for the next 2 seasons. Like, let's say it's like, okay, they want Trey Lance to be the dude. They invested in him. They want him to be the starter, let's just say for 2 seasons, right? The problem is that when you look at starter level money for a caliber of player like a Trey Lance, knowing he's going to be the starting quarterback for one of the 32 franchises in the NFL, while he is not a top tier player, he's going to ask for $15 to $20 million. Oh, Space, that's insane. Why would he do that? Because that's what the market value indicates. When you look at other players and how they signed and knowing that they're going to be the starting quarterbacks at certain teams, they're getting $15 to $20 million a year. That's just how it is. Now, that doesn't mean that's how the cap hit's going to look, right? That is just the nature of the business. And so that's another part of why I think this Dak Prescott contract is going to be done, is that the Joneses understand that they don't really have another option. If they even go through a season, let's say they make it to the divisional round and lose. It's same old, same old. I don't think that has a factor on Dak Prescott staying or leaving. I think that at that point, if it gets to the point of, okay, it's going to the offseason, I think that the Cowboys will do everything in their power to sign. At that point, I will firmly believe that is on Dak Prescott and his representation to get the deal done. You know what I mean? And I think that's why when CeeDee Lamb and his representation got the deal done, that was part of those discussions. And people will be like, oh, they can't pay. They can get all of the money to work because you're going to have players that are getting off the books and might retire, right? Like a Zach Martin. He can come off the books and then you're going to be paying Micah Parsons. Now, whether you want to pay these dudes or not, or how you feel about them, sure, you have your opinions. You can disagree with me. That's the beauty of this thing. We can have those discussions. And I'm not trying to say the shortcomings in the playoffs are fun, but again, it's organizationally they need to do their part. And that's where, kind of going back to what I said when we were talking about Jerry Jones and the general manager part of it, is that that's why I look at organizations where they're built from the top down. I'm not saying that players and coaches are let off the hook. I'm not implying that, but my thing is that as an organization, you need to be able to look at that and make a change or do what you have to do to make the organization successful. That's where I kind of look at it. And so if they want to offer Dak Prescott a 4, 5, 6, however many year deal for however much money, whatever, that's fine. That's their prerogative. Or if they don't want to sign him, all right, cool. I'm going to go with either way. But that is on them to build the organization how they want. Now, getting back to Dak Prescott, he is a top 10 quarterback in this league. There is no denying it. He is a good player at the position. We can talk about the accolades and stuff like that, but when you look at film and how he handles himself, he is one of the best of the best. And the reason I say that is that a player of his caliber to hit the market at the age that he is at, which he would be 32 years old next year, that's never happened in NFL history. For a player that is an MVP candidate last year and playing at the level that he has played at, to hit the open market has not happened. You want to bring up Tom Brady. Tom Brady was in his 40s at the tail end of his career. We're talking about a dude where you probably can get 5 to 6 years of very damn good quarterback play out of him. And so you look at a team like the Raiders. They could be looking at Dak Prescott as a long-term option. And I think that if they got a talented roster around him, they can succeed. I for sure believe that. And you look at other organizations where they would love to have a guy like Dak Prescott being the quarterback of their team. Because you need to have a franchise quarterback to have a chance at winning anything. And Dak Prescott is a guy that gives you a chance. Whether you want to say that he can do it or not, fine. You can have that discussion. But you can't say that the dude doesn't give you a chance. That would be factually incorrect. And so for that, I think the Joneses are going to get a deal done with Dak Prescott and Todd France so that they can ensure that they have stability at the quarterback position long term, and they can go throughout this part of Cowboys football where they have a very talented roster and it's just a matter of them getting over the hump or not. The team isn't in a position to rebuild. They have not shown any indications of just scrapping the whole thing and starting over. They've never done something like that. And there's no reason to believe they're ever going to do that. So just reading the leaves as they are, I think it's going to get done. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You can disagree with me. You can put that down in the comment section below. That's fine. We're here to just have a fun little discussion, but that's where I stand. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video to its entirety. You guys are the real MVP if you've done that. If you can hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on new content. Share this with a friend or family member that might love Dallas Cowboys football. And if you want to support the channel further, hit that join button, become a media member so the channel can get better and further support. And with that, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.